Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Spartans. I guess it all depends on when you're watching this. This is very strange. I'll be honest, never done this before, but I guess our teachers, our students, our staff, everybody's going to have to get used to this as we start to engage in this new semester of learning. My name is Stephanie Leasure. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you being a part of this tonight or today, whenever. I'm probably going to screw that up a few times. I'm used to doing these parent meetings at night, so that's probably why I'm going to mess it up a little bit. Not going to keep you very long, but I did want to get a message to you. You've probably already had a parent meeting with your coaches individually as your individual season A sports, but wanted you to have just a chance to get to know me a little bit in case you don't. And just kind of reiterate and hear some updates for this season A, for what it looks like for this fall. I'm going to share my content with my screen, so hopefully, and I'm hoping that I do this right, so hopefully I don't have to do this again. It's going to be 20 minutes or so, and so I hope I did it right and that I'm not going to have to re-record, but I am going to share my screen with you guys because I do have a PowerPoint, of course, so that you guys have an idea of where I'm at, and what we're up to. Okay, so let's get to the slides here. There we go. But that's a little bit past this. All right, there's the start. There we go. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to hope that that's the case. But for this is fall. I'm calling it fall because it is a fall parent athlete meeting. Thank you for watching. There's going to be kind of a check-in procedure at the end. So I'd ask you to watch until the end so that we can kind of figure out how you're going to interact to show me that you watched this video. So we haven't had many changes as far as our main introductions go. Our principal is still Kevin Gardner. You guys have met him before. For those of you who are freshmen, you'll get to see him over some WebEx things and some video recordings. Trainer, you're going to know Aaron well. He's been around at your events already. I've seen him working tirelessly outside with the sports that are outside. Our district AD is Chris Knoll. He has been for the past couple of years. I've been the AD for the past couple of years and took his spot at Doherty when he was after he was the AD here. In athletics, these are my ladies in the business office, and they're wonderful. Nancy Oliver's our bookkeeper. She's been in contact with some of you over refunds. Those of you who were spring sports last year definitely had to deal with her. And then Deb Madison, who is also in the business office and is at one of the windows. They've worked super hard over this past 5-6 months where we've had to deal with a lot of refunds, a lot of changes. And they've been working super hard this summer. Christina Montoya is our athletics assistant, my athletics assistant. She does all things scheduling and everything else. She also works at a window. So you've probably had contact with her. Just to introduce our fall sports season A coaches, Rob Dunsing, veteran coach, has been at Doherty for a long time, has coached cross country for a long time, working super hard. Cross country is crazy this year. So he's been working hard to give kids an opportunity, not only our kids, but also kids around the city. Golf, longtime coach Sherry Rogers. Thanks, Sherry, for still being around. We love you and appreciate you. Longtime boys golf coach and girls tennis coach. Brand new coach in Chanel Costa for softball. Love her excitement and her passion. Looking forward to watching what she does with our softball programs. We've got great numbers. Looking forward to getting that season started. And then boys tennis, John Shepard is in his second year. Still looking for more boys for boys tennis. But we do have a full team and we're excited about that. And he's doing a good job as well. So welcome to those season A fall sports coaches. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of updates. So these are our COVID CHASA updates. So as you saw, we are if you're watching this video, you're part of season A. And that's fall sports that are outside. I think they probably did that on purpose so kids don't have to wear these inside. And I don't know, we're even supposed to wear these inside, but I'm in a big gym, beautiful gym where nobody's in here using it, unfortunately. So I don't have a mask on. Season B starts, I give you the start dates. If you look down at the bottom of the screen, and actually I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but so season B is typical winter sports. Basketball, hockey, cheer, poms. Well, not cheer and poms. They generally are in the fall into the winter. Girls swim and wrestling. So that season is January 4th to March 6th. And that's basically that final culminating event, we think, for several of those. A few of them are yet unscheduled. So change slightly for cheer and palms, but they still get to have a competitive season. That's a lot of what CHASA has deemed as high-risk sports for COVID. Season C, February 22nd is the start for football only. So season C is football, boys soccer, girls volleyball. It's the remaining fall sports, minus the ones that were already going right now, plus those three. So that, besides football, those seasons are March 1 to May 8. You'll notice there's a slight overlap there. And then season D is what we'd expect as typical spring sports. But they are going now late spring, which minus the June end date, I'm going to guess that these season D sports are excited because they never have good weather for their season sports. So I'm going to guess that girls soccer, baseball, girls tennis, track, like awesome season for them because they will start April 26th and finish June 26th. So there is an overlap in that one as well. And yeah, we will go into June, but we don't have a choice. This is how CHASA has decided that these sports will go. And Lord willing, we will be able to engage in those sports as they've been assigned. Okay, so just to give you an update as to sort of what, and I mean, I'm sure you're hearing from your kids, but what your athletes are experiencing every day. Daily temp screenings and questions to ask them surrounding some COVID screening questions surrounding their, whether they have a dry cough, whether they have any respiratory issues that haven't been explained in other ways. A lot of you have seen these questions, whether they have any nausea or vomiting, anything new that can't be related, that they can't be explained for something else. So they're getting daily ones of those. They're having to wear masks before and after practice. And we're just reminding them gently, but it's definitely an expectation. Before they get their screening stuff done and until they're actively engaged in their sport, they are having to do that, wear those masks. And they're asking to social distance when at all possible. Some of you may wonder, so why would they have to social distance if they're allowed to engage in sports at this point? Why are they having to social distance? And if we did that all summer and worked hard in basketball, football, and were able to actually compete against one another in those things during the summer, why are we social distancing? The social distance aspect is when it's possible, why wouldn't we social distance? So I was at cross country yesterday and they met after and were stretching. They begin with stretching and warming up, and they are socially distanced when possible. Why wouldn't we be? When the norm is that we're supposed to be socially distancing, why wouldn't we do that when we are able to? So that's the reason for that. And then your athletes are definitely they're seeing drastic changes to their sport guidelines and schedules. Probably the most significant thing that you're seeing as a parent of an athlete is that their number of scheduled contests has gone way down. I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly what cross country was, but I know it went, I think, from 11 to 7. Softball, we went from 23 to 16. We went tennis from 12 to 9. And all these are for varsity contests. Our lower levels are even smaller than that. So softball, right, gets 16 contests. Our lower level softball only gets 12. So yes, it's a drastic reduction in those. Also, their sport guidelines are way different. Softball has to only have 12 on a roster, can only have 12 on the field at a time, including the opponents has to have 12 as well. So we have under 25. Cross country, huge. And that's why cross country has been such a mess so far, is that we can only have 50 boys and girls per day per race. And there's only one race per day. So drastically reduces the amount of teams. Our Spartan invite that we typically have, for gracious sakes, almost 1,000 people on a course. We cannot even close to have that. So we had to drastically change what our race looks like. We're still going to host an end of year league championship, but yeah, it's only for the 5A teams because we can't include the other parts of our league. So bear with your kids. They're having to deal with a lot of different things. What you can expect as a spectator, update-wise, is that there's probably going to be an increased security presence at games. Not only security, but admin to remind spectators of masks and social distancing. That is absolutely a requirement. for us to continue to play. So just know when you come to games, if you're able to, which we're super thankful, like we get to have spectators at tennis, at softball, some at cross country, some are not able to. And what am I forgetting? Softball, cross country, tennis. What am I forgetting? So, but all the things that we were able to engage in at this point, we were able to have spectators, with the exception of just a couple of maybe events. Like I know the Air Force Academy is not allowed to have spectators for cross country. So we are able to do that, but we need you to make sure that you are social distancing and that you are wearing masks. For instance, when you're at tennis or softball, we need you to spread out around the course, or around the softball field, or around the tennis fields, the tennis courts, so that you're able to maintain that social distancing. So there's more careful counts of those number of spectators. And then there's some events where no spectators will be allowed. We'll try to communicate that as much as possible as people communicate with us. So just that you are updated in that. So at this time of incredible upheaval and global unrest, what stays the same? So our Doherty High School's expectations of being committed to We Before Me is absolutely still there. So what does that mean? What does We Before Me mean in this fall or season A sports right now? One, it's to wear a mask, social distance when we're allowed to be spectators, extend grace to those creating and managing guidelines. People are trying super hard to give our kids opportunities, and your coaches are working super hard. So please extend grace to those people who are trying to manage guidelines. If you are confronted surrounding a specific guideline, because I need you to know what goes for Doherty doesn't necessarily go for other districts. They have to maintain their own guidelines as to what have been dictated by El Paso County Health and maybe their superintendents and even their building ADs. So if you are approached because of, and again, we'll try to communicate as best we can, and your coaches will, but if something's different, I need you to please understand that that person is just doing what they've been asked to do in order for us to continue playing, especially when we're visitors at another school. So if you are confronted and asked to change something, move to a different location, wear your mask, change who you're sitting with or whatever, please extend grace to that person and be respectful in how you respond. I would expect for people to do that when they are visitors here on our campus. So I'm asking you to do the same when we are visitors at other campuses. Okay, right now, if you would, I need you to turn and talk with your athlete. Hopefully they're with you. And if they're not with you, parents and athletes, I need you to ask this question to them. When you, because it's going to happen this season, both athletes and parents, how will you respond when you are facing a regulation that you may not agree with during this upcoming fall season? I know it's going to happen. Golf. Why didn't I think of golf? Golf, of course, is the socially distanced epitome sport, right? That's awesome. But still, they're going to have regulations. When they go to Eisenhower, they're probably not going to be able to have spectators. So how are you going to respond when you're facing a regulation that you may not agree with during this upcoming fall season? I need you to turn and talk with your parents and kids regarding that, and I need you to keep track of that response. So please do that at this point. Okay, so some typical need to be able to cover during this time. Just because the things look very different during this time doesn't mean that things have changed competitively. We're seeing decreased numbers a little bit, and I think that's probably because we haven't had a chance to even be in person with kids at all. So typically sports get more kids to join as the school year starts and we have contact with kids. It's not happening. So we've been posting on social media and sending invites to kids and parents. Plus we have people who are anxious about COVID, and that's totally understandable. So I know that probably that's had an effect on numbers. But still, even when that's the case, bottom line, playing time is competitive and it's not always equal. It's going to continue to be so even when we're in a different time period like this. When you communicate with your student athletes, I'd ask you to communicate that they need to have a growth mindset, that their hard work can and will pay off, so that when they give good effort and they're consistent in doing what their coaches ask them to do, they're on time, they communicate effectively, and they try their best, that it can and will pay off, but they have to continue that hard work. Communicate with them that they need to continue to be a good teammate, that their body language, their hard work, and their encouragement of their other teammates, coaches see that And honestly, administrators see that. I guarantee you, when I'm watching a football game and I see a kid with poor body language when they come off to the sideline, or when I see a kid in tennis and can't maintain mental focus, slams their racket, gets upset, can't handle that they're not playing well, I see that. Coaches see that. Being a good teammate through their body language, their hard work, and how they encourage other teammates is huge. Parents, I would ask you to make sure that you're not ruining a relationship between an athlete and a coach by negative talk about that coach or other athletes in front of your athlete. We have this conversation every year, but for those of you who have freshmen, this is super important to me. You can absolutely, parents can absolutely ruin a relationship between a kid and coach by how you speak about that student, about that coach and other athletes in front of that athlete. So if you disagree with something that's going on with that coach or a rule that they have or a playing time issue, I mean, softball, this is our one like really subjective sport, sport right now, which unfortunate for softball, super fortunate for everybody else, but tough when you're in a subjective sport. If you disagree with how a coach plays another athlete, please do not discuss that in front of your athlete. Don't discuss what a coach does in front of that athlete. If you have a significant concern with a coach and it's regarding specifically how they're handling something, please send your athlete to speak with that coach. And we're going to talk about that in just a second here about that communication protocol. But please do not ruin that relationship by talking poorly about that coach in front of your kid. That's a huge, big deal for me in how coaches and kids interact and parents. As a parent, let's talk about chain of command as far as communication is concerned. As a parent, you should always come to the AD or principal if you are concerned about your child's mental, physical, or emotional safety. One thing that I need to address that as a caveat is playing time. If regarding playing time, you have a concern, there is a communication chain, and this is how it starts. Student athlete should speak with coach first. Absolutely send your child to that coach. That's going to be first and foremost. And if it hasn't happened like that, I'm directing my coaches to ask you and ask the student, have we met with your student? If that hasn't happened yet, we're not having the parent discussion. So if that's already happened, if a kid has met with a coach and you still feel like there is a problem and it has not been resolved and there is a major issue there, please ask for a meeting with parent, coach, and student athlete. Student athlete will always be a part unless there's an extenuating circumstance, and then you need to speak with me about that. Before you meet, I need you to ask these questions that are up on the screen. I need you to ask yourself these questions. Am I being realistic about my student athlete? Does he or she simply, do they have the same skills that other kids have? Sometimes that happens as we get to high school and they don't have those skills. But if they do, proceed to the next question. Am I reacting based on my why, my why as a parent, or my student athlete's why? If you know, I mean, maybe some of you know what your student athlete's why is. I actually have a freshman student who's an athlete this fall. I need to know what her why is. Why is she engaging in doing a sport? If her why and my why don't match up, then maybe I need to refocus myself in how I'm responding to her not getting playing time or her not getting necessarily the opportunity that I think maybe she should. I really have to reflect on that. Third question, do other student athletes simply bring more to the table? And this is the toughest one. If my student athlete, for instance, simply doesn't have the same skill level as another athlete, then I have to be a little bit more careful as far as how I'm reacting to her playing time or how she's engaging in a sport. Anonymous communication, I started covering this last year. If I receive anonymous communication, I'm not addressing it with the coach. It's good information for me, but I need you to be gutsy enough and strong enough to come to me. There are no repercussions. I've done this for a long time. I've been an administrator for a long time. I know how to approach a coach without giving away a kid's identity and making sure that there are no repercussions for that athlete. I need you to communicate with me directly. Leave me a phone number, leave me an email address at which I can communicate back with you. Thanks so much. Okay, regarding officials, I say in your breakout sessions here, but that's with your coaches, and really not too much of a problem for any time except for in softball. In your breakout sessions, you have a conversation about officials and how you'll agree to treat officials as a program, whether that's student athletes, coaches, or kids. I'm going to talk about two different things here right there. Okay, in regards to officials, players must adjust to officials. My little guys play baseball during the summer, right? And sometimes we don't have the best umpires. It does no good for parents and coaches ultimately to get on officials because they don't agree with their strike zone or a play that they called that was a quick play at the plate or at a base. It doesn't help for us to really get on officials. They generally do not change those things based on parents and coaches being really hard on them. It's not really worth it. I understand that you may not agree, but it is a coach's responsibility to fight that battle. So parents, I need you to be really careful in how you address officials. Coaches have to fight those necessary battles professionally, and we spend a lot of time talking about how is best to approach umpires or officials. Parents need to support their athletes and let coaches fight those battles. I'm going to add one other piece to this with parents. If you are in the stands and you are stands or as a spectator and you don't agree with how another kid is conducting themselves, need you to be super careful with that. And here's why I'll tell you that. Great example. Last year, I was the administrator on duty at a softball game. And we had a parent who said it wasn't about a call, but it was about another kid on the other team, about their skill level. And a parent, I don't feel like they really meant wrong in this, but when they were talking, when they were cheering, they said, she can't make that throw. Go. She can't make that throw. Challenge that throw. Well, of course, as luck would have it, parent of the opposing kid is sitting not but 6 feet away, not even socially distanced. Parents just right there. And can you imagine what that parent feels like when they have a parent from an opposing team who says, your kid isn't capable of making that play? What that feels like? I mean, talk about invitation to box, right? Like box is in like, let's go. I'm ready to fight if I'm that parent, because to me, you have no business talking about my kid's skill level. So I'm going to say, guard yourself. That should never happen. Okay. Had it lots of times where I've been in youth basketball. I coach youth basketball still. Parents who say, that kid can't go left. That's different than saying force a kid left, right? I could say force a kid left. That's very different than saying, hey, that kid can't go left right in front of everybody. Very different. Please don't engage in that type of behavior, parents, and kids definitely. And my last bit about that is lose the same way you win, with grace, right? I always tell my kids, when I coach my girls, and they're good, when I tell them you compete and you win with class, act like you've been there before, which means when you win, act like, hey, that's what we expect. We expect to win. So when we win, we're going to make sure that we don't make the other team feel bad, because we want to compete hard and with class. And if you win or lose and do it that way, the rest doesn't matter, because that's all we can expect is for you to give your best effort and to compete as hard as you possibly can. Okay, so a couple of new faces in this Doherty Games Management team. Those of you who are freshman parents, you haven't ever seen hardly any of these people, but you could see them at our games. So top left is our principal, Kevin Gardner. he's going to be a person who's at your games. Next to the right of him is Lana Flanagan, longtime assistant principal at Doherty High School. To her right is new assistant principal at Doherty High School, Hillary Heighton. She's got great experience as a teacher. This is her first year as an administrator, but has a wealth of experience in a lot of things. So she's going to be a great addition. To her right is Ryan Alsup, who has been a principal, an athletic director, an assistant principal. So he's very experienced. Bottom left, and I hope you're seeing it the same way. I'm guessing you are. Bottom left is Scott Crosby, head of our counseling department. He occasionally fills in as a games manager. Giovanni Ortiz to his right, he's a new dean at Doherty High School, and he will probably be a games manager at your games. And then to the farthest right on the bottom is Chris Knoll, our district athletic director. He is often at our events. So the reason that I share these pictures with you, and those of you who are returning, you have heard me say this before. I have asked our games management team. So if we have a problem with a parent, and that goes for any school. If we have a problem with a parent or a kid, we are going to attempt to use proximity as our first games management tool. So what that means, because we do that with kids all the time, you give kids a chance to solve it by just decreasing the amount of space between you and that person. Now, we are supposed to remain socially distanced, so they're probably going to stop about 6 feet away. But I'll say, parents, if you have one of these faces, one of any of these faces who is coming towards you, and you feel like you've been a little bit loud, it could be because they might be coming towards you. And I would ask you to check yourself in that sense. Think about where you are and how you're participating in that game as being a spectator. And if you realize that perhaps you might be a problem right then, check yourself and stop it. They won't come any further. But if they do, they are going to address you politely. Come up and introduce themselves. They'll have an ID badge on and they'll introduce themselves. Hi, my name's Lana Flanagan. Hi, I'm Mr. Gardner. Hi, I'm Mr. Knoll. How are you doing today? And they'll introduce themselves and then we'll talk about whatever the issue is. So please be responsible and kind away in return. Okay, next, a big change that I have to cover, which, you know, honestly, with all this COVID and stuff, part of me forgets that we even have this change and I'm just moving right along. But we are in a new conference. So besides football and hockey, we are in the Pikes Peak Athletic Conference. It's called the PPAC. So you can look up anytime that's the case. You can look on our website, which it's having a slight trouble merging schedules. And we think it's because we transitioned to a new league. But if you look up Pikes Peak Athletic Conference.org, it takes you to school schedules of all these schools. So these are the schools that are now in our league. So there's 11 of them. So Air Academy, Cheyenne Mountain, Discovery Canyon, Doherty, Fountain Fort Carson, Lewis Palmer, Liberty, Palmer Ridge, Pine Creek, Rampart, and Vista Ridge. And you'll remember we've been in a league with several of these guys up until this point. So we are not in a league with Coronado and Palmer anymore, which is unfortunate, but we're going to try to keep them as many non-league contests as we can. But this is our league. So in this reduced contest environment for this year, there's a lot of times, like in soccer, we only have 10 games that we get for our soccer season. We're going to play league and that's it. So we're going to play those 10 teams and we won't play any non-leagues. But some of them, we have a few extra games, so we'll pick up some non-league games. But this is our league and I'm super excited about this league. What great teams to compete against. They're awesome ADs, really like them. And I think we're going to have a good time in this league. So important details, communication tools. One thing is on our website, www.dohertyathletics.org. Super important that you go to that website and ask you, if it's the first time that you've ever been there, it's going to ask you if you want to become a fan. It is important for you to become a fan. And you should become a fan of all levels of the sports in which your kids are going to engage. So, for instance, my daughter Addie is going to do cross country this fall. So I signed up for alerts for cross country and I said JV varsity. So I signed up for both of those so that I get alerts from the website. When I send communication over dohertyathletics.org, it means that you will get notifications because I check for all the sports that I'm sending those notifications. So please become a fan of that. Social media. We have an extensive social media presence. And we actually have on our website, if you look on dohertyathletics.org, you'll see we have a social media tools. Craig Decker, our girls soccer coach, has put it together. It's an awesome document that covers all the social media handles that we have for all of Doherty Athletics. So on Twitter, you can see and please take a picture of this if you need to, or a screenshot. Twitter, we have a Twitter handle, we have a Facebook address, we have an Instagram. And honestly, I do my absolute best. Coaches try to send me stuff. Parents, I would love for you to send me stuff as well. I would love for you to send to my email, which you're going to get my email here in just a second. But I would love for you to send me updates, cool pictures that you get, plus little snapshots of how things are going. I would love to highlight that on our social media, or tag me in your social media. I would love to do that as well. So please do that. I want to highlight as many of our student athletes as possible. Athletic study tables. So typically we run athletic study tables as during lunch. It was really successful this past year, doing athletic study tables at lunch. Super effective for athletes, keeping them eligible. Eligibility, let's talk about it really quickly, is going to look differently this year to start. That's for sure. Those of you who are in traditional, like synchronous classes, who are engaging periods 1 through 8 with your teachers, your eligibility is going to look very similar. Teachers are going to input grades every 2 weeks, and their kids are going to be held accountable every 2 weeks for those. Your teachers, your coaches will get grade checks for what kids are doing. If they happen to enroll in the Inspire program, or if they're doing grad points solely online, things will look a little different. Honestly, we will be communicating with the advisors for those two programs as to whether or not your kids are making satisfactory progress in those classes. And that's going to be it. If your teachers deem that they are not making satisfactory progress, you will not be eligible, and it will still be on a similar basis. So on a mid-quarter and quarter basis. So kids are eligible for the first 4 weeks. We'll run a grade check. If they have 2 or more Fs at that time, they will be ineligible for the next 4 weeks. Or if they are not making satisfactory progress in their classes, they will not be eligible for the next 4 weeks. We'll try to communicate as much as possible surrounding that, but it will look a little bit different. Your kids all, in order to play sports this fall, had to sign, and you had to sign, a substance abuse policy, which also goes with the disorderly conduct. Now, disorderly conduct will go a little bit differently. Of course, this first quarter, they won't be doing anything on premises, but your kids are our kids no matter what. And your kids, your student athletes, you represent Doherty High School and Doherty High School athletics all the time. So substance abuse wise, this is 365 for you. If you get caught doing drugs or abusing alcohol or engaging in disorderly conduct, you will serve a consequence. What that looks like is that for the first time that it happens, you'll sign a contract and you will miss 30% of your contests, which in a reduced sport, in a reduced game season, that's going to be huge. 30%. When you think about softball, if, say, for instance, when we're playing 16 games, you're going to miss 5 right off the bat. So student athletes, do not engage in incorrect, illegal behavior in substance abuse, whether that's alcohol or drugs, vaping, anything like that, or disorderly conduct on or off premises. That is definite. We need you to be examples of Doherty High School, and we expect you to be good examples. Okay, let's talk about a couple of important details. Refund policy. This fall, once you've engaged in a contest, once you have participated in a contest, you can no longer get a refund. That $82 goes into our coffers and gets transferred to District 11 at that point. So if you are choosing to leave a sport, you must request a refund before you participate in any kind of actual contest. If you get kicked off for any reason, substance abuse, poor behavior, anything like that, you also may not get a refund. The way you get a refund is by coming to the business office. We will be open, even though school is remote. The business office will be open from 7:15 to 3:15 every day. You still can get that. You still can get that refund. Okay, parent passes are not on sale until further notice, and the reason being, shoot, man, we don't pay for any spectator sports as yet. If we are allowed to have spectators starting in January, we will sell parent passes and we will sell activity tickets. Those of you who are used to buying activity tickets, oh gosh, we need you to buy activity tickets. But right now we don't have any of that on sale because we don't know what that looks like coming in January. The 300 Club, you will get a notice about 300 Club. We are updating that. The 300 Club is huge for me. I'll be honest. I was able to do, those of you who saw this past year, we're able to do some of the senior recognitions that we were able to do for spring sports through that 300 Club. So we did yard signs for spring seniors who did not get their season. We did a yard sign that was an awesome one with a picture and their sport. We delivered those to all spring sport athletes. We also did a signing party, a virtual or a in-person and virtual signing party through those funds. So you'll get a recognition about 300 Club. The 300 Club has several different levels. I'm going to email you about that. You'll receive information on that. It includes free admission to all events if you choose to purchase that package, plus gets you recognition in the gym as a plaque sponsor for Doherty Athletics. Spartan Apparel. So this is kind of a last thing. We are utilizing the pandemic to make some changes in how we do business. This is a risk, but starting this next week during check-in, you can expect a Blackboard message and over the website with a link to our new online school store. I think it's going to be cool. You're going to get the chance to kind of pick and choose what you want and to design it in the color that you want. And then you're going to be able to ship it right to your home. So because we're not really in person, I do have some clearance items, but we'll have to wait until we're like in person to be able to do that stuff that's in our physical school store. But up until that point, you will have the chance to order Doherty apparel online. That's going to include a mask, okay, a Doherty mask, or a neck gaiter, a neck buff that you could order for your students for when we're able to come back to in-person instruction. So it's kind of a risk for us, but I think it's an exciting risk. And I'm hoping that it kind of catches on and that we're able to continue on with that tradition of awesome Spartan apparel for parents, athletes, and students. Okay, your check-in for this meeting, demonstrating that you have listened to, and honestly, I don't even know how long it's been, but take a picture of this, please. You're going to send your response to the turn and talk, which I'll go back to this after this for just a minute. I'll go back to the turn and talk question to me, Stephanie Leasure. You're going to email that to me before Wednesday, August 19th. In your email, you're going to state your student athlete's name, his or her sport, and your name, along with your response to the turn and talk question for both your student athlete and you. That's your evidence that you have engaged in this meeting. If you have not, we're going to contact you. You're going to get an email from Ms. Montoya that's saying, hey, I haven't gotten a response from you that you heard Doherty Athletics expectations for this fall season, A season. So if you would, I need that to get done. I'm going to go back to the turn and talk question right now, but make sure you get my email address, Stephanie Leasure, stephanie.leasure@d11.org. And I'm going back now to the turn and talk question so you can take a picture of it. That's your turn and talk question. How will you respond when you are facing a regulation you may not agree with during this upcoming fall season? So please respond to that. Spartans, I can't wait to see you. I can't wait till we're back in this gym again. But until then, we're going to be out on the fields, the tennis courts, the golf course, the softball field, the cross country courses. We're going to be out there. I look forward to seeing with you. Can't wait to engage with you through a mask, of course, and socially distanced. And we'll hope to see you soon. Please contact me with any questions and concerns. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.